In the dense fog, a dilapidated bus slowly approached along an endless highway. There were 7 people on the bus, 3 women and 4 men. Sitting inside, they gazed out the windows at the thick fog, their expressions varying: confusion, bewilderment, fear. But beyond that, their faces shared the same pallor, as if they had experienced something terrifying along the way. The bus drove on until it finally stopped outside an ancient, run-down villa. The villa was shrouded in the surrounding fog, completely black, mysterious, and eerie. The door opened, seemingly telling the passengers inside that it was time to get off. The 7 people slowly disembarked. They turned back for a glance, their eyes carrying an indescribable fear, because on the driver's seat of this bus, where a driver should have been, there was nothing but empty space. Yes, this bus had no driver. As the last passenger stepped off, the bus door closed automatically, and then it drove off, disappearing into the depths of the mist. The 7 people standing outside the black villa looked at each other, seeing the utterly grim expressions on one another's faces. "Let's go. I think we don't have any other choice." At the critical moment, a composed man in the crowd spoke up. He wore a pair of dark brown square wooden glasses, and his clean-cut face showed a calmness that set him apart from the others. "Do we really have to go in?" The beautiful woman with the gold earrings, her voice trembling. She was dressed lightly, so she was cold, hugging her arms and rubbing them continuously. "What if it's not safe inside?" The others remained silent. Initially, they had thought this was some kind of prank, or that someone had specially invited them to be on a show. But when they realized there was no driver on the bus at all, they were plunged into deep fear. Although everyone had once been staunch materialists, some things that had happened earlier were simply too bizarre to comprehend. "So, do you want to walk into that fog?" Ning Qiushui took a deep breath, trying hard to appear calm. In reality, his heart was racing. From the moment he received that mysterious letter to arriving at this place, it had taken less than an hour, but that 1 hour had been a tremendous shock to his worldview. "Have you forgotten the fat man who jumped out of the bus and left on his own at the intersection earlier?" Mentioning that fat man, the woman's beautiful eyes immediately filled with immense terror. Her legs went weak and she nearly lost her balance. Earlier, there had been 8 people on the bus. Everyone had suddenly appeared on this bus after falling asleep. Among them was a fat man who had been cursing and grumbling the whole way, insisting that some unscrupulous show producer must have invited them to be in a reality TV show. The fat man impatiently said their phones must have been swapped. The bus driver was actually driving from underneath them, and the fog was specially made with dry ice and so on. Finally, when the bus paused at an intersection, the fat man directly opened the window, jumped out, and walked alone into the fog. Up to this point, things had still seemed relatively normal. However, when everyone reached the next intersection, they discovered something floating on the traffic light shrouded in fog. As the bus slowly approached, they could see clearly. What was fluttering on that traffic light was none other than the bloodied skin of the man who had left earlier. The skin had been completely peeled off. Everyone could even see the fat man's expression, extremely terrified and twisted, as if he had seen something particularly horrifying before his death. Meanwhile, large amounts of red blood continuously dripped down the pole of the traffic light. This scene directly scared the people on the bus senseless. Someone, refusing to believe it, opened a window, and that nauseating stench of blood drifted into the bus. Bringing up that fat man made everyone's expressions turn very ugly. Some even started to dry heave. "Since no one dares to walk into that fog, then we have no choice but to enter this black villa." Ning Qiushui took a deep breath. He was scared too, but for some reason, whether it was seeing that bloodied human skin floating on the traffic light or smelling that stench of blood, his reaction was far less intense than the others. Moreover, he was very interested in that mysterious letter he had received earlier. What exactly did the sender of the letter want to tell him? With Ning Qiushui leading the way, the others followed behind him. They pushed open the iron gate of the black villa and entered the garden outside. The surroundings were very quiet. eerily quiet. Everyone had to huddle closely together. The beautiful woman with the gold earrings in the middle felt someone touch her, but she just frowned and didn't say anything. Being touched is better than being mysteriously skinned alive, she thought. And so they arrived at the door of the Black Villa. Ning Qiushui knocked. Knock, knock, knock. As soon as he knocked, footsteps quickly sounded from inside. The people behind couldn't help but take a few steps back, nervously staring at the door. The door opened. However, the terrifying scene everyone had imagined did not appear. The person who opened the door was a very delicate, very beautiful youth. He seemed to be only 15 or 16 years old. "Come in," the youth spoke. Everyone then realized he was actually a boy, a very beautiful boy. However, this boy's voice was very cold, devoid of much emotion. Everyone watched Ning Qiushui follow the boy inside, looking at each other for a moment, unsure whether to follow. "You'd better come in quickly." Just as everyone was hesitating, the boy's voice came from inside again. "That fog is very unsafe." Mentioning the fog reminded everyone of the fat man's gruesome death, and they shuddered with fear, scrambling to get inside. The villa's hall was very spacious, with classical decoration. On the left were neatly arranged bookshelves, on the right a wooden staircase leading upstairs. In the central sitting area were 3 large sofas, and in the middle of the sofas was a burning fireplace. 4 people were sitting around the fireplace, staring at the flames, not speaking. The atmosphere grew colder and colder in this silence. "Excuse me, where is this place? Why are we here? What's the situation with the fog outside and the bus?" Finally, after a moment of thought, Ning Qiushui asked these 3 questions, but still no one answered him. The 4 people warming themselves by the fire didn't even glance at him. At this point, the bearded man behind Ning Qiushui, Liu Chengfeng, couldn't take it anymore. "I'm asking you a question. Are you all mute?" His voice was extremely loud, booming through the room and making people's eardrums hurt. Finally, the man in the suit sitting on the sofa directly opposite Ning Qiushui, warming himself by the fire, spoke up. "I know you have many questions. If you can come back alive from the first blood door, I will tell you the answers to those questions." Upon hearing this, a sense of foreboding immediately spread through everyone's hearts. "Blood door? What is that?" Ning Qiushui's heart stirred, recalling the mysterious letter he had received earlier, and asked. The man in the suit pointed towards the 3rd floor of the villa. "You don't have much time left. In less than 5 minutes, the blood door will open. Then you will enter the terrifying world inside the blood door to complete the task on the door. After completing the task, a bus will come to pick you up." After he finished speaking, a short, thin woman with pigtails in the crowd, Yan Yuping, asked weakly, "What happens if we don't complete the task?" The man in the suit slowly raised his head upon hearing this and met Yan Yuping's eyes. Those calm yet indifferent eyes made Yan Yuping's heart tremble. "You will die, and you will die a very miserable death." Hearing this, everyone's bodies went limp. They desperately wanted to believe this was just a joke, but the seriousness on the suit's man's face dispelled the last trace of hope in their hearts. "Can we not go?" Another young man with dyed blonde hair swallowed and asked. The suited man glanced at him. "You can, but from now on you'd better never sleep again." The blonde man was stunned. "Why?" The suited man gave a smile that wasn't quite a smile. "Because if you don't go into the blood door to complete the task, then something from the blood door will come out to find you. No matter where you flee, they will find you." Then the suited man didn't continue, but everyone already knew the outcome. Ning Qiushui glanced at the 3rd floor, then asked the suited man, "Before we go in, do you have any advice for us?" The suited man was slightly taken aback, then shifted his gaze to Ning Qiushui. Upon seeing his calmness that set him apart from the others, a flicker of barely perceptible approval flashed in his eyes. "Advice? Although the stories behind the blood door are extremely dangerous, there is always more than one path to survival. As long as you find the path to survival, completing the task and staying alive won't be too difficult." Ning Qiushui nodded. "Thank you." After he said this, he surprisingly took the lead, being the first to step forward and head upstairs. The bearded man, Liu Chengfeng, saw how decisive Ning Qiushui was. After a fierce internal struggle, he grit his teeth and followed Ning Qiushui upstairs. "Damn, little brother, your guts are really something," Liu Chengfeng muttered quietly as he came up behind Ning Qiushui.